And action, we're back online here from the conference Testing United 2024, reporting from Vienna, Austria. And now I have the honor, and I always wanted to talk to her, Tanja Vos. Welcome.
Hi.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, can you say it again?
Tanja Vos?
Yeah,
Vos.
it's actually Vos.
Vos. Okay, yeah. I had a feeling sometimes when I heard Dutch, it's a little bit like Deutsch.
Yeah.
So there are some similar pronunciations. But welcome, Tanya. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, nice to be here.
So just to start this little conversation, everybody, Tanya did the opening keynote today at the Testing United conference. And sadly, I missed it. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about it so that you also get the experience of hearing what was the keynote about, what were the key elements that people would learn. But before we dive deeper into the matter, for the people that do not know you, would you mind telling us a little bit about you? What do you do?
Yes.
What makes you special? Get the mic closer.
Oh,
only,
okay,
but-
more closer, yeah.
so
okay.
that they can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, I actually also started the keynote a little bit telling who I am, because I am a professor in software engineering. So I am an academic. And I think at this conference, I might be the only one, because there's lots of companies and people
There are a few other academics.
Yeah, did you see academics?
Yeah.
Nobody in the room said, I'm an academic too. So I don't know. But
I think I had the other one busy here. Art, I think he's also teaching.
no, Art is not really an academic, because he also works in a company.
Oh, okay. So I'm spoiling things.
No, and I'm doing, well, basically what I do in my life is academic research and teaching. So, and I work, like I told you before, I work at a technical university in Valencia, and it's Open Universiteit in the Netherlands. So I am at the two universities, and yeah.
We were talking a little bit earlier, and she was mentioning that she's jumping back and forth in between Valencia. Hola, Valencia. Saludos. En español, a little bit. And as well, going to the Netherlands back and forth. It's sounds quite amazing and really interesting that you mix academia, teaching people, helping them. Do you do that only as a classroom matter, or because I think you also do some internet, social media, and helping people out there, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What we're trying to do in our well, what I'm trying to do in my education. So I'm basically teaching programming, and I'm really trying to get testing in. Yeah, because well, you also know, and all the people here at the conference know, testing is really important.
I love it. Yeah.
So, and what you see, what we do at university, we start teaching these kids programming. And then once they know a little bit how to do it, so they can write their first functions and loops and fors and whiles and ifs and thens, etc. And then they get into their own style of programming. Then all of a sudden we say, oh, hang on, you also have to test this. And then they're like, yeah, no, why? I can already write my programs, and I've not done that. So we're introducing testing in programming far too late. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that in the programming classes I give, the first program they write, they test it, such that they know that testing is something that you inherently have to do when you program.
It's a very good point, because generally I tend to think, I used to say there's no official career in QA or that it's truly included, until I was shut up by some people in, actually we were talking about a friend that it's from Uruguay, and there in Uruguay they have the signature, how do you say in English?
The
class,
a course, yeah.
The course that goes deep into QA, and it's something that, if I'm honest, when I studied in the university, programming, IT, and all this, no mention of QA. It was just like, yeah, your software is going to work magically from scratch. No, that's not true at all.
That's not true.
I'm curious of what you are teaching. What languages are you teaching your students?
The subjects I'm doing now in Valencia is basically Python. Yeah.
Because I heard that Python just became the most popular language in the world, right? The most used.
Yeah, can be.
Do you have any guess why?
Well, yeah, I think it's being incorporated in many libraries. It's really very specialized also towards AI libraries that you can easily use, etc. So, and I think it's also, and this is why I chose it to do it at my classes, because it's first year bachelor. So the students come with hardly any programming knowledge at all.
Wow.
And I think then with Python, you can start up really quickly. Yeah, you can immediately ask some input from the user through the console, do something with the data, and print it out again. Yeah, so your first program can be these three important steps basically. Yeah, because that's what software does. It asks for data, it does something with it, and it prints it out. So you can immediately do this in Python, and you don't need a lot of boilerplate code like you have in Java, no, because then you need to create a class and you have to do a main, and then you have to say to your students, no, well, you have to do it, but you don't have to understand it now yet, no, but you will do later. But you don't want to do that to your students. So with Python, you can immediately start focusing on the important stuff. So that's why we chose that.
Really cool, because when I started, it was NCC. Which that was a lot of and when you mentioned
I'm
Java,
not going to tell what my first language was, because then you can guess my age.
Oh well, I started in university with NCC, but when I was younger, I did some Fortran and QBasic. So
okay.
I mean, I feel you. But this is really interesting, because when you say Python, and I was thinking Java, all the classes, all the inheritance and imports and things that you don't want the students when they are starting to get like mixed up with all those.
No. And they do. And then you see that even if they don't need the main anymore, they just put the boilerplate code that they saw from the beginning, they put everywhere. And then you're like, no, it does not need to go here anymore, but they don't understand. So so that's why we chose Python.
It's a really interesting option, and something that for reference, my sister, who is not an IT professional at all, she's in administration, she's like, I'm learning Python. I'm like,
okay.
Cool.
Good. Make sure she's testing.
Yeah, and that's where I was getting to on my next question. When your students are already like, they already started the hello worlds in Python and all the first steps, when you start to introduce QA to them, what are their reactions? What they do? Because when I remember when I started to get like, you need to test your own code. Why? Do you get any?
Yeah,
like,
no, but
pushback or
that's why I'm trying to do it even earlier. So with the first program we write, and then you can do this. Actually, I'm saying to all the teachers that they should do this, no? Because if you show them a first program, you can tell them, okay, now we're going to execute the program. But you can also say, now we're going to test this program. Yeah, so we test it by executing it, putting some data in it, and look what comes out and verifying that is what needs to come out. And that is basically already testing. So if from day one you consistently use the word testing, then they know they should do it. So then later on, when they know how to write functions, and then I give them some PyTests, which is basically functions for testing your functions, then they're like, oh, okay, this is cool, because I was doing this all by hand all the time, and now I can actually automate this with these functions that she just taught me. So, and then they don't wonder, oh, why should I test this? They know they should test it because I told them from day one on they should. And then when we introduce the unit testing platforms, then they're happy because they don't have to do it by hand anymore. So that's what I'm trying to achieve with them.
It's amazing, because you are kind of, it might sound like a strong word, tricking them into being excited, because you're making them do it by hand at the beginning. And when you introduce PyTest, I can tell the reaction is like, oh, now this is automatic. And then they get excited about it, right?
And so what I do, well, you call it tricking, but so I give them before, I give
Reverse
them
psychology.
I give them some functions they have to do, and they work with dates. Yeah, and obviously to test them, that's difficult, because you have a lot of different combinations of dates to test your program with. And then I put a whole big table of tests that I want them to execute. And this is boring. And I do this on purpose, because then when they see they can actually automate it, they're even more happy. So yeah, I wouldn't call it tricking. I'm just teaching.
Motivating them.
Motivating, yes.
It's a different perspective. But when you were talking, I'm like, that's genius. Because I remember at the beginning writing some unit tests and the assertions and making all this by hand, and suddenly like, oh, there are these libraries that make a thing easier. JavaScript, Chai.js
Yeah.
that I was using. I'm like, okay, this is way more straightforward. I got excited, and when you're telling me that you do that by default to get them excited as well, I was smiling internally. I was like, oh, that's the way. That's a very good course of action. Where I am curious as well with your students and mixing this up. What once you are done with them, to say it in a way, how do you see that they have a different perspective from what was traditionally in
Yeah,
IT?
we want to know this too, no?
Mhm.
Because so that we can show that this approach works. But yeah, well, this takes time. So we have started this like a couple of years ago. So
They are
I
not out there yet.
no, we don't know yet. But well,
Interesting.
I hope it has his
If any of our
effect.
students is watching, please let us know. I'm really curious. No, and I have a feeling that this really works because it's a different uh, set of steps to do. They are, I used to call it when I had students long ago, fresh meat that you can mold and try
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
give them like a good direction. And I have a feeling that you are molding them in a very
I
good
hope
way.
so. I hope so. Yeah.
No, I am almost sure. Because the perspective and the excitement that you're giving them, it's incredible. And that gets me curious as well. How does that connect with you being here at conferences and events?
Yeah, but
How
that's
did
it.
that started and how does
Yeah,
that
so
move?
well, so we spoke about my teaching now, no? So what I do as an academic, what you do, you teach and you
Mhm.
do research. So this is the teaching part, and today I was giving the keynote related more to the results that we have in the research
Mhm.
part I do, and that is more related to the automated execution of testing at the GUI level.
That's interesting, and I am gonna not paraphrase because I have it here in front. Tanya's talk
Oh,
was AI-powered scriptless testing of user requirements, navigating the future of GUI test automation. So it's more based on GUIs, scriptless. Can you share a little bit on what was the deal with it?
yeah. So we've been working on an approach that is scriptless, yeah. And I really today also really want to emphasize because I had some discussions lately also on LinkedIn platform, and then I found that people think that some tools are scriptless when I think they're actually not. Because for me, scriptless is when there's actually no script at all.
Mhm.
And we wanted it, so we started this research years ago because script maintenance is really a problem. Yeah, so many people write Selenium scripts, Playwright scripts, or they do capture replay the scripts, or they write them themselves in whatever language you can write your scripts in. But if once they're there and your software changes, you have to maintain the scripts. And this is cost a lot of time, lots of effort. And the worst part of that is, I think, is that many testers are actually maintaining scripts
And
while they
especially in agile CI/CD
yes,
times, that gets like
but
wow.
they should be testing.
Mhm.
Yeah, you should be testing, you should be evaluating the quality of your system, and you should not be maintaining old scripts. It doesn't make any sense. So the only way to solve this problem is to get away from the scripts. And that's why we made a scriptless approach, which is totally different. No, it's really simple. It's like you detect the state of your graphical user interface.
Mhm.
You detect all the actions that you can do there as a user. So if there's a button you can click, if there's a text field you can type, if there's a menu you can open it. No, so you know what this is because GUIs are not that complex.
Mhm.
And then you select one action, you execute it, you go to the next state, and then you do it all over again. Yeah. So this is in a
Is
cycle.
this manual or automated?
No, this is automated.
Uh-huh.
And then because you can get the state of a user interface, you can get with tools. No, for example, for desktop applications, we use the accessibility API. For web applications, we use WebDriver. For mobile applications, we use APM. And these are tools that permit you to automatically obtain the state a user interface is in. And if you have the state, then you can derive the actions. You know what you can do. Yeah? Because we know if there's a button we click, in a text field we type, and there's a limited amount of stuff on the user interface you can do. And then you select one, and we started this research off with selecting random. And then it's kind of monkey testing.
Oh.
But this worked really well. So we've done case studies in companies and in Valencia, in Alicante, in France, in the Netherlands, in the context of European projects. And this actually worked very well. We found errors, critical errors that they could not find with their own testing infrastructure in place. So that's why we continued. And what I've been telling today is a little bit how we have advanced from random action selection towards actually basically intelligent action selection, where you let like a Gen AI, a large language model, help you to decide what will be the best next action to execute instead of doing it random.
It's interesting because you start a little bit with randomness, but you start to create some sort of knowledge base that you can feed into your AI models, algorithms, and so on. Uh, and I'm curious how the AI powered side, is it like guiding through what elements and what to do, or what are the processes here? And
No, we just tell we tell the LLM, okay, you have to test this and this web application, and this is your goal. Yeah, and the goal can be, well, anything. It can be written in natural language. It can be a gherkin, for example, or it can be a user story. And then there is a goal, and then we say, and at this specific state we are in now, we have these actions. What would be the best action to select in order to reach the goal? And then the LLM gives you an action, we execute it, we go to the next state, and then we say again, okay, now we are in this state. We just did all these actions. This is your goal. What would be the next action to execute? And I showed a video now in my talk where we actually have this open source bank application, which is called Parabank. And you can see how the LLM actually does a user story where he creates a loan and asks for approval.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is personal question, is this video available publicly to kind
Yeah,
of
sure.
wonder?
Maybe it is already on YouTube, but if not, I can put it there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let me know, and I'll try to make a link here in the video description if you are curious, because I'm very curious about what's the deal with this. And interesting, out of these thing that you were presenting, did the audience come up with some interesting questions, or were they like,
Well, I actually have
waited
to
out?
say, no, I have to say this is one of the conferences where most questions were being asked. And even when we finished the questioning round, I had like 10 to 15 people in a queue waiting to talk to me.
We were
because
supposed to start this interview earlier, but now I know why she didn't show up. But what type of questions were you getting? What was the people
Yeah, well,
curious
people
about?
were interested to know, well, if they could apply it in their company, if it would be used for their software. There were questions about performance. It is true that if you use an LLM, it slows down. Yeah, obviously, it's easier to select random than ask the LLM what to do. Then it gives you back the answer, and then you have to execute it. So that's true. And there were questions about how to obtain the state. Yeah, because well, like I explained to you before, we get this for free. And yeah, from the top of my head, what I remember.
Those are the
Yeah.
important ones. Is it publicly available?
Yes, it's open. Oh, there was another question. Is it open source? Yes, it is. It's BSD3.
BSD3.
Yeah,
Is
so
there
it's-
like a GitHub repo?
Yeah, there's a GitHub repo.
I'll ask you for the link, and we'll try to have
Yeah,
it here
okay.
on the description if you
And
want
if
to check
anybody
it.
wants to use it, that's what I also told the audience. Just contact us, because since we are academics, our goal is to disseminate our research results. So if anybody wants to use it and needs help or whatever, contact us, and then we can see if we can help.
Check it out. I'm sure that you have some links in your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
some
yeah. You
places
just
that people can easily find it. But I want to make your lives easier. We will try to have all the links available later today or tomorrow. Soon. I can't promise much, because we're traveling, we're going back and forth. Interesting times. And Tanya, you also mentioned that you are not only an academic endeavors, but also research and doing some of this. I'm sure that what you're presenting is related towards your research. What other things are you kind of like working around research-wise?
Yeah, well, basically the research that we do is basically around this scriptless testing tool, because there's still a lot to do. We didn't finish all. So our dot on the horizon is making this tool that can actually learn how to test. Yeah, so then you don't have to do anything anymore. You just have to say, okay, this application should do this, test it. Yeah, but obviously we're not there yet. So there's a lot of open questions that we still need to do. One of the most important one is obviously the Oracle problem, because that's always with automated testing. Who is going to decide whether what comes out after the whole test sequence is good or bad? Did you find an error or no? So that's something we need to work on. Obviously, the LLM is nice, no? And the examples I now showed obviously worked, but we also know that LLMs can get funny. So we also need to take that into account so we can augment it, no, with additional knowledge. And we are thinking, for example, that all the test scripts that people have all written and have been maintaining for years, that the good news is that this was probably not for nothing. Because we might be using this stuff to augment Gen AI to actually know what it is, this test step that need to be done. So
it's a good training, how to say, the material that you provide to the machine learning language, to the LLM and everything. You need a base of information to give it to be trained on. And yeah, all these scripts that we have are hopefully gonna make it
Could be,
better.
yeah.
And
but we need to research it. And you know what we also need to research still is more test adequacy criteria. How do we know that we actually tested well? Yeah, because that's also a problem we now have. I can test randomly and I can find some errors and failures. That's really great. But we don't know really what else is there, no? So we cannot really rely on that as saying, okay, we've tested enough. So we need to find more metrics that can help us do that after we test in this way.
Have you found any interesting kind of metrics or guidelines lately that?
No, yeah, it's we still go by the traditional ones, of which we all know that they're not good, like coverage criteria and stuff. You cannot really draw any conclusions of those, but well, that's what we have. The best one for us as academics for our research is if we know what errors are in the application, because if we know that they are there, then we can see how many of do we find them, and if we find them all, then that's good news. If we don't find, then there's something wrong with our approach.
I think that, and you just brought up something very interesting, well, important, and that is kind of like a headache for us QA people, like the percentage of coverage. What's the percentage of I don't know, assurance or correctness that our system have? And that's a very big misunderstanding in the industry. Leadership, team leads, CEOs even, like, what's the percentage of coverage? What do you tell them back when they ask those questions? Because you very, very much stated like that's not the right approach.
Coverage doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that says maybe something is really low coverage, then, well, at least you know that it's not good.
Yeah.
But the rest doesn't, you cannot draw any conclusions from coverage criteria.
And do you give them like an indication, like you should pay more attention to maybe this or maybe that, or
what do you mean?
Instead of just coverage, or like?
Yeah, but well, it also depends a little bit on what you have. I mean, you need in order
type
to
of solution, right?
Yeah, I mean, in order to talk about coverage, you need to know what. So code coverage is one thing. You can cover all kinds of other things, but you need to know. You need to have these things, no? So.
And now on the lines of the questions that the people were asking you about the tool, how to use it, and some of the tips that you are discovering, that you are learning and teaching. And I think this is similar to what you may be telling your students continuously or often. For the people that are watching us, what recommendations would you give them to start to pay attention to, or do more, do less? What are those tips for posterity that you're telling people nowadays?
For testers?
Yeah. I mean, we will get to the developers in a moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, I think for testers, the most important message is maybe that it's important to know what testing is. Yeah, because I feel
it's not just automating.
It's not just what?
Automating.
No, yeah. And there's also still many wrong definitions out there. And there's still many people that say, oh, testers, yeah, well, everybody can test. But this is not true. I mean, if you want to test, you really have to have a very critical attitude. And you have to have a mindset where you really want to explore a software to find out what the quality is. And I think that in the testing world, sometimes people do not really understand that yet. And they think that testing is all about automation, which is obviously not. You start to automate when you have already learned that you know how to test.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is really important. So everybody out there should really look at what they're doing. Am I only automating, or am I really testing to evaluate the quality of a system?
You're making me think of, I was giving the example in performance testing is also not just about automation. It's not, I am been teaching like, hey, you can click here, you can just manually and get a lot of performance metrics that are very valid, or let your end users give you the performance metrics, let them test. They are more random, or an AI platform, let it go crazy and try all the permutations and so on. And a founder of a company told me like, but there's so much fun automating, like breaking the correlations.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it becomes like an addiction.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's not the only thing.
No.
There are so many other elements that testers need to be aware of.
And I also think, I think even the terminology test automation, I think people are using this and they're thinking of very different things. And so I'm the general chair of the Eurostar conference, and we just went over all the submissions for the Eurostar 2025, which were like over 500.
Wow.
And then I saw like many submissions and abstracts that were like, oh yeah, we're going to use AI in test automation. And I'm like, okay, but what test automation? What are you going to automate and why? Yeah, because it seems like the goal is automation, but that's not true. The goal is testing. And then once you have find something that is like really boring to do over and over again, then you have to automate that. Yeah, but not the other way around. So I think that is also very important. And what level are you automating?
You made me remember in the past, our requirements in a project, I used to be a consultant, was like, okay, you gotta create 40 automations. Why 40? Why? And it was just like the people at the consultant company were like, we sold a package for 40 automations. Okay, about what? And there were some silly automations that were done just because.
Yeah.
For the sake of automating, not for the sake of quality, for the sake of testing. And that's a very good point that you bring, because many of us, we are, I call them like sinister incentives, that you are just like given this. There was this testathon one time, and the price is going to be for whoever detects more bugs. And I'm like, that's an odd like goal. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the easy ones, like typos or colors or silly things. And I won not the prize, but I won a small prize, but I was just gaming the system. And QA is not about like a system, a set of number of automations that you get to do.
No, definitely not. And well, we're all on LinkedIn, and you see all this discussion that are being about the terminology of manual testing and automated testing.
Yeah.
That's James Bach and Michael Bolton. They're like really how do you say
Heated about the
yeah but I mean
debate.
they are kind of right, no?
Oh.
Because I mean it is not manual or automated. That is not what you're doing.
It's QA in general.
Yeah, it's you automate the boring stuff, but the testing you have to do that. A human has to do that because you cannot automate that, no? And then once you're like testing well and you're evaluating quality yourself, yeah, to not use the word manually because James might get angry with me if he's looking, or Michael, but it is true. So I think the way we address things when we talk about automation is really important. Start automating the stuff that you feel that you're repeating over and over again, or maybe stuff that you can do far more faster with a tool than you can do yourself. Those things you have to automate, but really evaluating the quality that you cannot do with automated testing. So.
I love that recommendation, because you are not going only to automate the boring things, the repetitive things, but be efficient about your automation, because, and it brings back to mind the automation pyramid that so many places I've seen teams not paying attention at all to it. And it's just like, yay, Selenium front end, let's do everything there. And yeah, you gotta be also smart about it, what you're doing, right? For your testing efforts. And well, looking at time,
Yeah.
I feel like we can be talking here for hours
Yeah,
and
but we have
expanding.
planes
And
to catch and stuff,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
There are some planes. I have to be mindful and respectful of air schedule, so airplane schedule. So, Tanya, just to wrap up, where can people follow up with you, get in touch if they have some questions or want to
Yeah,
watch?
look me up on LinkedIn. I
Mhm.
think that's the best way to find me. Drop me a message if you want to use the scriptless testing tool. It's called TESTAR. Just approach me or ask
Send a note, or
Senor.
we're gonna put the notes.
Yeah.
If you see it's right here, look for her on LinkedIn. Get in touch. Ask for some of your best questions, because I'm sure that Tanya will have lots of insights. And well, with that, Tanya, thank you very much for
Okay.
coming.
Thank
And
you for asking me.
no, it was such a pleasure, and I was looking forward to meeting you for a while. And some also recommendations from some other friends in common. Hola, Maxi. Espero estés viendo. Saludos a Valencia. And well, Tanya, thank you very much again.
Okay. Thank
It was
you.
such a pleasure. And there you have it, everybody. Another awesome conversation with one of the masters of the testing world and academia in those matters. I'm always super happy to have these guests. And well, the show is not over yet. It's still early here in Vienna, Austria, where the Testing United conference keeps going. And I am pretty sure that we are going to have still some surprises today and some more awesome people that are going to come and speak to and share the knowledge. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. I hope very few. I don't know. But I promise more surprises are coming. So see you around, and adios. Adios, Tanya. Take care. Bye bye.